Good afternoon, my name is Ola Tamanova and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's day 502 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about the situation in the fuel market. I want to introduce our speaker today. It's Serhii Kuyun, director of the A95 Consulting Group. Good afternoon, Mr. Serhii. Good afternoon. So it's been a week since we live in the realities when we talk about the reinstatement of the VAT and pre-war excise tax on fuel. When should we expect a price peak, and what price can it be? Let's talk about this. Good afternoon. I have some fresh figures upon the results of today's monitoring, how we went through the first week after the reinstatement of the 2021 taxes. The 95 fuel grew up to 47.71 hryvnias. Diesel went 3 hryvnias higher, up to 46 hryvnias 86 kopecks, and liquefied gas got 1 hryvnia 47 kopecks more expensive, up to 39.49 per liter. So as we were expecting, it's a gradual growth. It was within the range of 2 to 5 hryvnias depending on the chain, the retail chain, and we see that the fuel stations of the economy segment, which trade with the lower prices, they were forced to bring their prices up about 5 hryvnias, and those who trade on the upper level, they raised the prices up to 2.53 hryvnias per liter. So now the main impact on this growth of prices was exercised by VAT, because it's paid during the sales, so it was reinstated automatically, so to say. It got its effect back, and now we expect the price to gradually grow at the expense of the excise tax. The excise duty will be paid when the fuel is imported, and we see that the record levels of supply were in May and June. It says that the traders were preparing for this day. They brought a lot of fuel under the lower excise tax, and these reserves will be sold now, and the fuel which was procured under the new prices will be coming to the market, and after the rotation of the reserves is over, we may start talking about the full reintegration of the taxes in the price. We expect it to happen in August. In June, we've witnessed the record level of supply of diesel fuel at about 650,000 tons. It's a record level since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. It says that the market continues operating, that we've built quite a diversified and reliable sources of supply, and we can confidently say that we're not going to witness any problems with the availability of the products, and that agitation that erupted before the reinstatement of the taxes, I think that people were thinking that there might be some disruption of supply in the market, but nowadays it's one of the few things that where we have confidence that we know where to take the fuel, we have good provisions created, and everything is going to be all right. In part, we can see the level. What is the level of prices that we expect? It's an interesting dynamics that we observe in the wholesale market. The wholesale market is different because the operators have no residues there. They work quite quickly, and they add all the new circumstances and factors into the price. So the wholesale market started growing in the end of June, and for the time being, what we have is that the 95 gas price increased 7.75 kopecks, and the diesel prices have grown almost 7 hryvnias. So this market, it has the new taxes already integrated into the price, and respectively we can extrapolate it onto the future retail prices. I want to remind you that the tax burden on the fuel starting from the month of June has grown 11 hryvnias per liter per gas, 4 hryvnias per diesel, and 3 hryvnias per liquefied gas. So those indicators should be integrated into the new fuel price in July. So the new price will be roughly plus 11 hryvnias per liter for gas. Well, I think that most likely it won't be 11 hryvnias plus, but I think that a couple of hryvnias, maybe 3 hryvnias per liter, will be amortized at the amount of the expense of the retailers, because the higher the price, the lower the procurement capability of the people, and they will do their best to arrange to regulate that added value, not to give a blow to the consumers. But we know that in diesel market we've overcome this part, and we've went part way in the liquefied gas sector. Mr. Serhii, what's going on in the global fuel market? I mean, the price policy, what is it like and how can it affect our situation? Well, obviously for us the global prices are the procurement prices. It's an important factor. I cannot say that there are certain tendencies being observed. For the time being, the situation generally is very stable. Fuel is more than sufficient, and on that side we don't see any threats, any specific threats. However, the experience shows that the situation may change quite dynamically due to some unpredicted circumstances. The oil mining countries such as Saudi Arabia tried to increase the price, cutting the mining amount, but it provides no significant result, which says that the fuel is maybe even excessive in the market. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions on the floor? Yes, good afternoon, Yana Koloda, Ukrinform. And my question is as follows. When can we expect the stabilization of the price of the fuel prices in Ukraine? Well, it's about to happen after the amounts of fuel with the new tax burden, which started being cleared in the customs, will replace the existing reserves that we have now in significant amounts. Well, in our expectations, it's about to happen in the beginning of August. This is when we may make some preliminary summary, intermediate summary about these tax changes. Thank you very much. And another question is whether the situation was solved with the Russian liquefied gas incoming into Ukrainian market. Very good question. I would like to stop at that, at the challenges that exist for the market today. If we talk about the tax situation, it's one thing. It's what's main now. The main key. The main thing now is that this unpopular step, the increase of the prices, achieves its goal, and the goal is the replenishment of the state budget, because the state budget is the only source of funding of our armed forces, and all the foreign support that we're getting goes to other sectors like humanitarian support and so on and so forth. So for the time being, there are risks that a large fraction of these new taxes may not end up in the budget, because we expect the renaissance of the schemes with the optimization of taxation, because the logic is very simple. The higher the tax, the higher the motivation not to pay it. And respectively, there are signals now from the big traders that the dealers who were dealing with those schemes already, they already start offering their services. There is a lot of options to do it. In short, we're talking about the fictional consumption when there is no trade of actual oil products, but the documents, and respectively there are fictional or counterfeit VAT obligations that the state does not get eventually. Those risks, they were known beforehand. VAT is the most criminalized tax, and during the pre-war time we were estimating the losses of the state budget due to optimization of VAT at the level of 25-30 billion hryvnias per year, and unfortunately now we have all the preconditions for this problem to emerge again. So we want to urge the state tax service to keep the situation under control. They say they're ready for that, but we'll see how it works, because the experience of 7% VAT demonstrated a very interesting thing, that in fact all those schemes, they were wrapped up in the market. So when the market, when the tax is low, there is no reason to evade it. And respectively, those all schemes were wrapped up. Now the motivation is quite high. And I think that we will be getting back to this topic again and again. And about this problem, it will affect the prices too. In what way? Those who don't pay that tax, they will in fact keep the price lower to gain some competitive advantages, and it may deter the price. By the more disciplined retailers, if they pay all the prices, if they don't pay attention to their competitors, they will lose their sales. This is what was happening before the war, and they were forced to orient at those great traders even before the war. So this is the factor that will influence on the growth of prices eventually. Mr. Serhii, what the government has to do, or the market has to do, how to regulate this thing, how to make sure this risk does not become a reality for us. Just like any shadow market, it's afraid of the light, so we have to give publicity to this situation to the most extent possible. For example, the tax code contemplates that this tax administration has to report the tax burden on every participant of the fuel market. And it's very simple to compare those figures and to understand where there is a problem. It does not happen for a number of reasons now. Some might say about the martial law and so on, but our analysis of those documents demonstrates that nothing is an obstacle for doing it now. Some preliminary information from the tax administration about this current situation. In this information, we see that even with the low VAT, this problem exists because many marketplaces were trying to optimize those taxes. We see that in that information that half of the retail chains pays salaries in the envelope, so it's easy to compare. It's easy to compare checking the payment of joint social tax and other taxes for pension fund allocations. Well, there is no such range of salaries in the market, so some should demonstrate some lowered official salary carrying less tax burden. So if we check that information and if we give publicity to it, the people will see who pays taxes and who do not, and they will give maybe their preference to those who replenish the budget. And on top of it is the mechanism of control of the operation of tax administration too, because if 2 years ago or 1 year ago we had it and it continues existing now, we have questioned to those guys, what are you guys doing there? So this is the only thing that we can use to fight this phenomena. I hope there are some signals of good hope, but we will keep track of this situation. Mr. Serhii, another question is regarding the quality of the fuel coming to Ukraine. Or there was another question about the Russian liquefied gas. Well, another problematic issue in the market is that there are signs that the signs of the presence of the Russian fuel in the Ukrainian market. The liquefied gas is the most obvious example of it, because there is such a supplier as Latvia who do not have the manufacturing capacities of the liquefied gas. So the question is, where do they take that product to export it to Ukraine? And the analysis that demonstrates that it's Russian import that that is being exercised with the help of obtaining the new European certificates, the new documents which come to Ukraine as European fuel. And the same thing is with Lithuania. The exports there are higher than the balance of the balance existing in the market. There is one manufacturer, but they don't have enough products for such an amount of exports that we observe. So again, it's Russian import. Poland. Poland is the bigger importer of Russian liquefied gas in the world. So there are questions arising to Poland. I want to remind you that back in May, the Cabinet of Ministers adopted, I think in the beginning of May, the decree number 1147, which intensified control over the documentation of on the fuel products, including liquefied gas, and there is a requirement to provide the origination certificate for that product. That step achieved its result. In May, the supply from Turkey is the problematic diesel direction. It decreased maybe 50%. It was one of the biggest dangerous directions, so to say. But we see yet more results of that, more consequences. We see that the shippers of gas and diesel and liquefied gas, they started adding normal certificates, and they come with those products to Ukraine. Now there are talks about intensification of those requirements to make sure that the customs have additional authorities to require secondary documents, for example, transportation documents, to show where this gas is originating from. And we see there is a huge resistance to this initiative. There are some friendly requirements by the customs. For example, there is Lithuanian gas, there is gas from Kazakhstan coming to us, but everybody knows that it's the Russian gas manufactured in Orenburg by Kazakh companies, and we see quite a surprising reaction from the importers, who start saying that it's unlawfulness. However, a month ago they were saying that they were going to fight the Russian imports, which says that we have to reinforce this control, we have to intensify this control. It works, and it just needs certain regulatory amendments, and the authorities of the customs that are proposed to be reinforced as a result of adoption of some regulations. So this work will be underway. For diesel, the situation is, well, the situation has changed positively, but it's a little bit early to say about the complete victory. So again, the biggest problem is Turkey. Turkey is the biggest importer of diesel fuel from Russia, more than 1 million tons per month. This is the amount that they import. 1 million tons is like twice bigger than we consume per month is the imports from Russia. That's the incredible amount of import, and thus Turkey has become a big exporter of this product. We see in the logistics services that is the fuel that the documents are being remade for, and it's going for the run to Ukraine with the new documents. So we see it all, the customs see it all. Sometimes they lack authorizations, but you know, as they say, any gun in bolt will find its right knot. But I'm surprised by this situation. I was talking to the traders and some of the importers. They say those importers who import that doubtful fuel, there is no problem with the non-Russian fuel in the European market. There is a huge supply. The difference is $10 per ton. $10 per ton, for your understanding, is like 30 kopecks per liter. So saying about its economic feasibility, well, yeah, we cannot say that it's some crazy money being discussed here. So it's unclear to me. If it's unclear to them either, I think that with time they are about to realize it. Well, and again, back to the quality. As to the quality of the fuel, again, specifically about the liquefied gas, it's very interesting issue, because now the issue is discussed to set the barrier in the way of Russian liquefied gas, including by raising the requirements to the quality of the gas that is being imported, because Russian gas is of very low quality by a number of characteristics. Everybody knows it. And the Ministry of Energy now works on implementation of technical regulation for liquefied gas in Ukraine. It had to be done way back ago, but we've never made it, and now this mechanism for raising requirements may become at the same time a barrier in the way of the fuel with doubtful quality coming to Ukraine. I mean, the liquefied gas. For diesel fuel, for example, we have a technical regulation, which is a copy of European documents. Unfortunately, Russian fuel complies with all the requirements. Only the experts, by a number of characteristics, specifically during winter period when the Russians manufacture winter diesel, they can calculate it. So this mechanism is not going to work. For diesel, we have to look for new methods. Generally, the situation with the quality is not so bad in the market. We import a lot from Europe, but again, as the experience shows, the matter of quality is not a matter of import. A priori, all the fuel coming to our market is of good quality, but then it's being stored in storage facilities, transported by the oil trucks, stored at the fuel stations, and it depends on the level of compliance compliance with technological regulations by the retailer. If they clear the reservoirs, if they make sure that the fuel is stored in separate reservoirs without mixing, those companies, they demonstrate the best results. Then those who buy oil trucks from one supplier and then from another supplier, this is who has the problems. And we see nothing is changing in terms of choice, because you don't have to chase the low price. There are no miracles. One might think that the cheaper it is, the better, but it doesn't work this way. Well, it doesn't work this way in any market. This is why I strongly recommend to use reliable chains. Don't chase the low price, because the cheap fish means bad soup. Thank you for this broadcast. Thank you for this information. I'm reminding you, joining us was Serhii Kuyun, the director of A95 Consulting Group, and at 1500 we will have the presentation about the intentions and prospects of the Ukrainian refugees and internally displaced persons. So stay tuned, work together for our victory, and glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Thank you.